Okay, Matt, we want to go through a couple things now that we've got an idea of where your picture is and we know kind of what your budget is, the money you're bringing in. We know what your investment profile is. I want to talk about the third one, and that's life's little surprises. How are you controlling life's little surprises? And that's the life insurance conversation. Tell me what's going on.
I have a like 2 times my salary
Okay.
that gets paid for at work.
Okay.
And then I have it's like a $500,000, I think it's $500,000 term policy that we bought when the little girl was born.
Okay.
And it was kind of to cover college and the rest of the mortgage.
Great. And that was 18 years ago or so. You said she was 18.
Yeah. So it was 14 years ago. I think
Okay.
It was a 20-year term policy.
Okay. You were obviously making money. You got a ways to go. Again, the life insurance conversation, if something happens, what are you thinking as far as taking care of your family going forward?
It seems like between the term and the other, we should be pretty set, I think.
Okay. Let me walk you through some ideas just so you know what the options are. You've rented insurance for 14 years. It's called a term policy. You got another 6 or 7. The good news is the payments are really low. Number one. Number two, it's done its job. It's protected you against something happening to you for big expenditures, the house, some education, what have you. The problem is you borrowed, you rented it, meaning in a couple years you're going to be on your own, and anything happens, that's going to have to come from that post-tax pool of money in your investment. So your options are, number one, re-upping in a couple years for another 20 years. It's going to be a lot more expensive than when you were 31, or permanent insurance. Let me kind of walk you through permanent insurance since you know what you're doing on the investment side. On the investment side, you're getting your paycheck, you following your budget, and the excess money is going over post-tax into the investments where there's capital gains taxes and it's growing, and you're going to use that for your retirement, paying taxes then. What permanent insurance does is basically it's like if you took your 401k and held it up to a mirror, that's what I'm talking about. So $18,000 you can put in your 401k, and we like that because it's got a good rate of return. It's got those high contributions that you like. Maybe you'd like a little bit more. You can use it as collateral, and it's safe from creditors. What a permanent policy does is basically the same. Rather than it going in pre-tax, it goes in post-tax, but the 401k grows tax-free, as does the permanent policy. You pay taxes at the end, as opposed to the permanent policy. It's more like a Roth. Once you pay the taxes going in, you're sort of done. So at the end of the day, the 401k and the permanent policy from a tax standpoint are looking pretty similar. The benefits are, depending on the funding, are pretty similar as far as the collateral and using it and safe from creditors and what have you. Again, just so you know, the government thinks it's a really good thing, probably too good, so they put a cap on how much you can fund it. So if you look at this chart here, the bottom line is what you're paying for term insurance, and that's quoted by the insurance company. That's the cost of the pure insurance you paid. And the top line here is where an insurance policy premium becomes what's called a modified endowment contract. Over that, it's sort of a qualified plan. Some tax rules come in. Everything in between here, this is where the advanced planning happens. This is where the C-suite and the owner of the Jaguars live, because they can't really max out their 401k. Everything they do is post-tax. So inside here, it starts looking like that 401k. So it's a personal endowment contract, if you will. So depending on your budget, obviously, you have the ability to fund this thing up to the line. And below that, it's your personal endowment. It has all these features we talked about that we can add, such as long-term care and all these various income riders for when you do retire. We know that there's a stream of income, and it's not being exposed to the market, number one. Number two, the capital gains issue goes away that you're facing with your fellow at UBS. Number three, when you start writing checks at retirement, that's going to be taxed, and we can control that as well, because this endowment, as we're calling it, is going to be a pool of money that you can draw from tax-free. You can take loans against and what have you. So we know and by the way, it'll protect your family to perpetuity. So there's the pure insurance component that is a part of it, that if something happens to you at age 60 or 70 or 80, there's going to be what we call a death benefit. So they're going to get that $1 million or $2 million or whatever it is. and that's this line here. And again, everything up here becomes more of an investment, more of an advanced investment option, a little different than you're seeing from the UBS guy. Okay, so we talked about life's little surprises versus investment outcomes. Can we talk about maybe running some scenarios where we take a portion that looks like your 401k contribution, 18, 23,000, rather than paying taxes on it for the next 30 years, see what it looks like inside one of these vehicles?
So the money comes out pre-tax or it comes out post-tax?
Comes out post-tax. So you know what a Roth IRA is?
Mm-hmm.
They're great. Everyone loves them if you believe taxes are going up. The problem is the cap is $6,500. The cap on this is this modified endowment contract. Depending on what the policy is, it's going to be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year.
So we're putting roughly between 25 and 30 grand right now into, the guy at UBS is taking, that's roughly what we give him about every year.
Okay.
So a portion of that could fund a policy.
And you're done paying taxes forever.
Yeah, I think that's something we could look at.
Great. Well, why don't we look at calendars and we can sit down and I'm going to run what we call illustrations. And I promise you won't have to look at these 80-page things. I will interpret it for you, and it'll be a one-pager, and we can sit down with Becky. Tuesdays and Thursdays are better for me. What works for you?
Yeah, Tuesday works.
Great.